Hello and welcome to Sam Splains the World. I am your host, Samantha Bremekamp. And on today's episode, we are going to be making focaccia bread together. It's delicious. I'm sure you've had it and perhaps you thought it was too complicated to make. And I promise you it is not. I'm going to show you how easy it is. No need focaccia bread. Well, we all need focaccia bread, but no need as in kneading dough in the bread world for those of you who did not get super into making bread over the pandemic. All right, sit tight. You don't need a lot of ingredients. It's super easy. The biggest amount of time that this whole process takes is when it's sitting by itself in the fridge overnight or for 8 hours. Yes, you could push the limit and do it after the dough has risen after 4 hours. But I am telling you, the consistency is so much better if you just let it have a sleepover in your fridge overnight. It's gonna be better. Just be patient. So the first ingredients to kick this off, not yet flour, honey. What? I know, right? Dry active yeast and warm water. You're going to take 2 cups of warm water. You're going to add about 2 1/4 teaspoons of active dry yeast and 2 teaspoons of honey. Obviously, taking the honey and putting it in the warm water and sloshing it around will make it easier for you to get the honey off of your spoon. That's what I have found. Otherwise, it takes forever. Behave yourself. Okay, let's do a little close-up and you can watch the magic happen. Okay, in order to kickstart our focaccia bread, we start with 3 ingredients. That's right, just 3. We have 2 1/2 cups of warm water, lukewarm, you don't want it hot. We need the reaction to take. You're going to take 2 1/4 of active dry yeast. Notice I'm doing this before I grab the honey, because the honey is going to stick to the measuring spoons. So 1, 2, and the cute little spoon. Here we go. And 1/4, or you might just have a packet of the active dry yeast, which is fine also. Okay. Just have to make sure it's fresh, so it really is active, so the yeast reacts with the water. And now the honey. 2 teaspoons of honey. This honey is amazing. It's from the Detroit Hives project in, yes, that's correct, Detroit. They're trying to bring bees back and they're doing a great job. They're a nonprofit organization. And who doesn't love honey? But I really, really love organizations that bring so much to their city. Pollinators are so important for our ecosystem, not just for delicious, delicious honey, just talk to Pooh Bear, but also for our crops, for our gardens, for all those delicious fruit and vegetables that you love. That honey is delightful. Okay. In order to help get the honey off the spoon, we're going to use that as the mixer. You can use a whisk, you can use a fork, you can use a spoon. It's whatever you have. Now, if you go to this recipe online, it's going to recommend using certain tools. If you don't have those tools, that's okay. Like, do you have a microplaner? I don't either, and it doesn't harm the recipe at all. You can find literally anything you need in your kitchen. Anything could make do. Okay, we're gonna let this sit for 5 minutes. As it gets super bubbly, I might take a whisk to it just for more frothing, but the bubbles are already happening. And as the yeast breaks down and joins the party, it's going to become a delicious, bubbly mix. Now, if it doesn't bubble, that means the active dry yeast is no longer active and you have to get rid of this, which is okay. It's a little sad, but I think you're going to be all right. It's just important to have ingredients that are, you know, haven't expired, because gross. But you can't smell this. But if you were doing this, you would be able to smell. It has a nice yeast smell as it's gaining traction with the lukewarm water and the honey. So this is just going to sit for 5 minutes, and then we'll come back to it. Whisk it real good. Sorry about that sound of metal on metal. Couldn't be helped. Oh yeah, look how bubbly. Whisk it real good. Do 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 do. Baby, baby. Oh, baby, baby. Yeah, that's what you want it to look like. All right, now let it sit down and leave it alone. Move on with your life for about 5 minutes and then come back to this. Now that we have this great bubbly concoction, thanks to the active dry yeast, warm water, and honey, we're going to add 5 cups of flour. I'm not going to get crazy measuring it. I'm part of the more loosey-goosey camp. Because there's a little bit more in each of these, I'm going to add a little bit less for the last cup. The last 2 cups, we'll say. Since I overshot. Okay. So easy. So few ingredients. So delicious. The biggest test is your patience and being able to wait the 8 hours or the overnight. Once we fold this a bunch, we'll put the lid on it, we'll put it in the fridge, and we're going to let it rise. We're going to add some EVOO and then some other things, and you can add whatever you want, whatever you're into and not allergic to. And it's going to be glorious, and it's going to be delicious, and you've made it this far, so go take a break, read a book, take a walk, take a nap. And then in movie magic, we'll be back in no time with this having been sitting in the fridge for over 8 hours. Well, at least 8 hours. I'm not a timeologist, but I do love eating, and focaccia is one of my favorite things to eat and make. So I can't wait for you to be able to do it too. Hang tight. Okay, now it's time to get a little bit messy. We added our 5 cups of flour to our awesome already started dry active yeast honey warm water situation for our focaccia bread. And now that all of that has been mixed together thoroughly, we're going to add 4 tablespoons of EVOO, and your hands are going to get messy. This is when it gets fun. For me anyway. At the very least, it'll be fun for you to watch me get messy while you're trying to figure out who you can trick into doing this so your hands don't get gross. But what's a little olive oil between friends, you know? Okay. I am going to use my hands, but first, just to make sure I get it off the side, the dough. You can, if you want, transfer it to another bowl. If your bowl isn't this big, you're gonna need a bigger bowl. You're gonna need a bigger boat, you know what I mean? This is going to rise thoroughly. And yes, sure, you could get away with not putting your hands in it, like I'm kind of successfully doing right now. But honestly, where's the fun in that? You're baking, you're gonna get messy. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, it's so happy. So soft and fluffy. A little bit gross because, you know, the consistency. But you might enjoy it. You might just be doing this all the time with no intention to even make the focaccia bread. And that's between you and your dough. But now that I have thoroughly mixed it and none of it's sticking to any part of the bowl, I know that this puppy's gonna rise and rise and rise. So I'm going to wash my hands first, and then put the lid on it, and then put it in the fridge for about 8 hours. You can do it overnight also. I love to do that. As long as you do the little bit of prep work ahead of time, the rest of this is so easy. You'll see more about that later. But thank you for making it through this first part of Sam Explains the World with your host, Samantha Bremekamp, as I show you how easy and fun it is to make focaccia bread for any age, albeit you make sure that the allergies don't come into effect. Because there's, wheat, gluten, oil, I don't know what you're allergic to, but I don't want anybody getting hurt in the making of your focaccia bread. So sit tight and let's watch this bad boy rise. Okay, so I just grabbed our focaccia that's been sitting overnight in the fridge. Woo! Has some air buildup, and it more than doubled. Gooey goodness. So awesome. Now you're going to take your focaccia pan and you're going to butter it up all around. And that's the flavor too, but also it helps it not stick because there's nothing sadder than something coming between you and the love of your life, which is the focaccia bread that you're making, and not being able to get it out of the pan. Chewing focaccia bread that has pan on it is like really not good for the teeth. I'm not an expert, I'm not a dentist, but learn from me. Okay, we're gonna put in about 4 tablespoons of EVOO into this pan, just to get it ready. And before we throw in our Jiggly Wiggly focaccia concoction, we're gonna deflate it. I know you're like, what is the point of having it rise overnight for at least 8 hours just to deflate it? I blame society, but also I think it has a lot to do with the science of getting to that perfect, delicious focaccia consistency. So we're just gonna do what it tells us. Oh yeah, you could hear it, you could see it. It is deflating even as I just take it off its sides. And we're gonna fold it in on itself. Before we put it in the pan. Oh yeah. And turn and fold. And turn and fold. And turn and fold. I'm gonna do it a couple more times just because it's fun. But it is important to, deflate its ego a little bit. Too much ego is not a good thing, even in focaccia bread. All right, now that Jiggly Wiggly is all deflated and ready, we're gonna pour Mr. Jiggles into the bowl. Into the pan from the bowl. Oh my goodness. It's what I imagine Slimer, the ghost, feels like. Maybe next time I'll dye it green in honor of Ghostbusters. New one's coming out. Looks amazing. I just love those movies. Okay. Alright, so our focaccia Slimer is ready. You're going to push it. I'll probably use my fingers. You're going to have to. It's going to get messy, I know. Oh, boy. It feels weird, especially because it's cold from the fridge. And you're going to gently massage it into the corners. And then I'm going to let it sit on the oven for about an hour because it's going to once again rise and it's going to expand and fill in this pan. But I want to point out, you'll know it's ready to become focaccia bread for you to play the focaccia piano on it. Because when you put your fingers in it, the finger marks will remain. But if you're seeing this, there are no finger marks because the dough comes right back up, which means it's not ready yet. If only we could all be so easily identifiable as when we're ready or not by such a thing. But alas, we are not focaccia bread. So my hands are super messy right now. And in a minute, / maybe up to an hour, as we watch this double up, I'll keep an eye on it while I do other things. Probably wash the dishes because I've just created such a mess. And then I'll come back to this to add really cool things. I'm going to be adding rosemary, oregano, thyme. You can add anything. Some people like to add chocolate or cinnamon. If you want it more sweet than savory, you can also just be straight up plain Jane, not put anything in it. Some people put olives in it. I'm definitely putting more EVOO into it when it's time, because you can never have too much of that. It's so, so good. But really for focaccia bread or anything, it depends on what you like and what your allergies allow you to do. So the world is yours, and one focaccia baking class at a time. Sit tight. As promised, boy, did it rise. Can you see that? Woo! And now is the most fun part. Now we get to play the focaccia piano, creating a tune that only you can hear. I'm going to be playing the piano and pushing into it herbs from my garden that I dried for winter, which is awesome. So I have oregano, thyme, rosemary. It all depends on what you're into. I think they're really pretty too, just the colors. Obviously it's about the taste, but you know, it's fun if you spruce it up a little bit. So do a little sprinkle. I already prepped it by crushing it up, so I wouldn't have to, like, you know, take it off of its stalks or whatever. And I'm going to play the piano, which is going to deflate this a little bit because it's a little too big for its britches. And you'll know that it's ready because as I'm pushing in with my fingertips, the finger marks are going to stick. Obviously you can put on as much or as little as you like. I just think it's so pretty. There's purples in it. Okay. I'm going to also add sea salt. Nice flaky sea salt. You could add kosher salt. You can not add salt. You get to be the dreamer of dreams for your own focaccia bread. And I'm also going to drizzle on a little bit more EVOO because I am obsessed. But also it makes it crisp up so nicely in the oven. The great thing about doing this and, you know, going through the pain of the 8 hours or the overnight, whatever, just waiting for it to be ready. I have the oven preheating to 450. It takes like roughly 15 to 20 minutes depending on how hot your oven gets. That's like no time at all. So it's great, again, if you're like having your grandkids over or whatever and you need to entertain them, if you already have this ready, like you already did the overnight part, it's really fun for them to play with, and then it's ready to eat after cooling down after about 15 minutes. Just delightful. Without further ado, I shall play the focaccia piano. Ba! See how it's deflating? Ba 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 ba. Da 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 da. Know that it's deflating and makes it to the corners and the finger marks are staying. Boop. So much fun. Could not be easier. Could not be more delicious. Oh, it's perfect. Da, 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 da. Okay, maybe I didn't invent that song, but it's really none of your business. It's what I hear when playing the focaccia piano. Oh yeah, it's so much fun. Just listen. Ridiculous. Again, if you're a texture person, probably not for you. But give it a try anyway. Because it is so tasty. And what makes it even tastier is the fact that you put in the time and effort. And if you're getting into gardening and you have herbs and you've added those to it, you just feel like $1,000,000. You're like, yeah, I made that focaccia bread. Yeah, those herbs are from my garden. No big deal. Because you're amazing. And the world needs to know. So now that I have thoroughly played the focaccia piano, I'm going to wash my hands. And then as soon as that dings, that it's hit 450, I'm going to put it in. I'll put a 15-minute timer on it, but I'll keep an eye on it. And then you'll see me take it out, and we'll go from there. It is a little messy. Luckily, there's a sink behind me, so don't panic. Yeah, I'm just like hanging out by my oven, obviously. No, the timer went off. I checked it, I put it back in for a couple minutes, but now it's perfect. So the big reveal. Woo, girl. God, if you could smell it, you would jump through your screen right now, but it is beautiful. Obviously, it's too hot, unfortunately, because I want to dive into it right now. So we're going to let it cool off for a little bit. And then you're going to watch me taste it. And you're going to hear the crispiness as I break it open with my hands or a knife. Haven't decided yet. But it is worth it. Look how gorgeous that is. The smell alone, I think, would be like worth $1 billion. But I'm not a smellologist, you know. I'm just somebody who dabbles in gardening and baking and stuff. Because I like stuff. But that smell. Sit tight. We need it to cool down. Can you hear it? Oh, so good. God, so good. It's gonna be really hard to wait for it to cool down. And you get to experience watching me experience the delicious focaccia bread that I just brought into this world. If you could smell it. Anyway, I digress. Me back here, 10-ish minutes. It has to be cool enough to not burn yourself. Don't be like that. You can wait. What? Put it down. Drop it. Okay. I'll see you back here. As we wait for this beautiful focaccia bread monster to cool down enough for me to devour, I mean, show you and share with people. Obviously sharing is important. I like to make it thicker, which you can tell, and I showed you when I was like, boy, looks so good. Some people like it thinner, that's fine. I like this because you could cut it and use it for sandwiches. Just imagine this toasted, maybe with some garlic butter, some roast beast, or whatever you like to put on your stuff, but it's up to you. If you don't want it to be as thick as this, great news! Your focaccia bread doesn't have to be that thick. You can use a different size pan. You can use less material. The internet will help you if you need guidance. This is just like a Kickstarter to show you how easy it is, how fun it is, how delicious it is, and just how simple it is for you to do it. I cannot stress enough how much fun it is to play with it when you're playing the piano. And again, outside of the big waiting part in the middle, it's really easy. I wish I had known this, but it's probably better for my health that I didn't. It's funny, when I would go to my favorite bakery, the second they would have a focaccia bread, I'd buy the whole pan of it because it was so good. And they're like, oh, it's so easy to make. And I'm like, yes, bakery people, you're amazing bakers. Of course it's easy for you to make. You have all these things. And then thanks to the pandemic, when we all got hooked on the old bread biz, I discovered, oh, it is really easy. Turns out the bakery people weren't lying. They rarely do. But now you can make it at home and be your own baker. Delicious, lovely, the color, the smell, the herbs. Oh, the only downside is the wait. Have I burned my mouth on it for not waiting before? Yes. But this is Samsplain, so you're going to learn what not to do based on the incorrect things that I have done. Do not burn yourself if you don't have to. I'm just going to turn off the video for a second. I'm not going to try it. It's still too hot. All right. The agonizing wait is over. I've tested this before hitting record, by the way, so I'm not just guessing. It is cool enough for me to touch. Obviously, I'm not a superhero. And it's time for the big reveal. I know you can hear that. I'm sorry that you can't smell it. It's so beautiful. Perfect consistency, crispiness, hence all of the EVOO, not just for flavor, but to make it really deliciously crispy. And yeah, you can cut it up, serve it with dinner, or, you know, you should probably test it though. Yep. Yeah. Have you not ever done something like that? You made it. You get to eat whatever you want, but it is phenomenal. Now I need to take some time alone with my focaccia bread. to get to know it better. And also to cut it up so I don't just eat the whole thing. I'm gonna eat a lot of this right now. It doesn't really matter, I'm an adult. I can do whatever I want. It's kind of want to just hold it. It's a little bit warm and it just smells so good. I hope you have enjoyed the Sam Explains the World Focaccia edition. Apologize if I have any of the focaccia on my face, but that's life. That's the life of a focaccia master / amateur. I hope that you take the leap and try to make it yourself. It's worth it, it's easy, and it's delicious. And it's much cheaper than buying a whole sheet at the bakery. I need to stop eating it. Until next time, dear friends, thanks for stopping by.